Welcome everybody to Status Quo, your home for gaming trends past and present. And this is episode 11. And as you know, I am Mars Vindicator, and I am joined by
Queasy Crayfish.
That is right, as usual. So for today's episode, we got some dope things we want to talk about. So first, we're gonna bring back, that great segment, Over and Under, and we're both gonna talk about an underrated and overrated gaming genre. Then we're also going to talk about the Japanese gaming renaissance. Is this the era that we're in now? We're seeing a lot of Japanese games come back when they were, infamously very much so missing during the PS3 era. And now it just seems like they're everywhere. Next to that, we're going to do a new segment that we're going to temporarily call Collector's Corner. And I'm going to talk about some ridiculous shit that I bought this weekend. And finally, we're going to discuss Pokémon Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu because we got some new news about that. But as always, we're going to get things started off with flake news. So, Queasy, are you ready for flake news?
I'm always ready for flake news.
Everybody loves flake news.
Yes.
All right. So, the first flake news is, I guess it's not really news. It's like news about possible news. But I think that it's that there's a possible Tekken 7 Season Pass 2 leak. And just, and for the most part, now we really know that this thing's definitely going to come. So even if you haven't heard about the leak, Queasy Crayfish, what are your thoughts on this in general?
I did hear about this. It's something like there was 8 or 9 items, I think, that were like, on the roster, and it doesn't necessarily mean they're all characters. It was like, some could be just, customization items or whatever. So I think most people are expecting just, 2 or 3 characters, new characters at most. And I heard somebody was talking about possibly having like a legacy, character pack, with Julia and Lei Wulong and stuff like that. So that would be cool. I mean, they're kind of missing from the game, but I feel like this game's just so old already, so it's hard to get excited about, new DLC for it at this point.
No, that's definitely true. I like to remind everybody again that, this game came out in 2015 originally. So, yes, it's going on. It's coming up. It's going to be 4 years here soon. So, all right. The next flake news is Microsoft, I guess, has reportedly said that they will not delay Crackdown 3 any further.
Oh, well, thank God for that, because I, am so excited. That game, that trailer looked absolutely shitty at E3. I thought it was one of the, like, I couldn't believe that people were actually like, oh, Crackdown 3's coming. Like, it looked like absolute shit. It looked like just a game for stupid idiot people. That's what it looked like. Like, come on, like Terry Crews screaming and like, come on, like Old Spice commercial. What is this? Old Spice commercial? The game? Like, fuck right. That game.
And Microsoft knows, they know it's just kind of whack at this point. So
put it out so we can throw it away in the dumpster. That's what I'm going to go. I'm going to go buy 10 copies. I'm going to throw them in the dumpster. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I always do.
That's where they're going to end up anyway,
Yeah, well, why wait?
Exactly. Crackdown. All right. The next topic here, we already discussed this a bit, but I'm interested to hear what you have to say again. But Sonic Mania comes out tomorrow.
Sonic Mania
Plus.
Indeed. I like that Ray and Mighty are in it because they're like forgotten characters. And of course, the original Sonic Mania had Bark and Bean and Fang in it, which was cool. So that's, the best aspect of of this new one, I guess, is that it has Ray and Mighty in it. But from what I hear, it doesn't have a whole lot of other new stuff. So I probably won't buy it unless I get it for cheap, like later on or something like that. Just have a physical edition of it. I wasn't a huge fan of the original Sonic Mania just because I didn't feel like I had enough new content in it. It was a lot of classic stages and all that stuff. And I don't know, just I want new stuff. I want new good stuff from Sonic, and that's, they seem incapable of giving me that. So, yeah.
All right, well, I hear that, so yeah, we'll see where this takes us. Hopefully somewhere good. All right, the next one, I guess apparently Germany is banning pre-orders on games that have vague release dates.
What's Germany?
What?
I don't know. That's a weird
insult because of the poor World Cup performance.
Yeah, exactly. That's a weird piece of news. I mean, vague. So like Kickstarter games or games that's
no, like Square will like announce Kingdom Hearts at like E3 2015, and then it'll go up on GameStop with like a release of like December 2016. Like it'll just be there as a placeholder.
Yeah, be like December 31st or whatever. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I could see, yeah, because it's like, why put it up for pre-order when it's got such a long time to go in development? But is there like a history of these pre-orders not being honored or like people getting ripped off or anything like that? Because if it's not a problem, then, if people want to wait that long, I don't see a problem with that.
Well, okay, so I wouldn't necessarily say that people get ripped off per se. But I guess where I could see it, kind of making sense is like, okay, like take Crackdown for example, right? So, they just put that up as a placeholder, Crackdown is out. So people start pre-ordering the game, right? So then like that studio is getting money for this, right? And then they continue to push it back, and then they continue to, and then it comes out, and then it's a bunch of bullshit, And so, yeah, so there's like a number of customers who basically like, because you basically paid for something that wasn't out. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think so. I think a lot of it is their fault, but
yeah,
a lot of rules are set up to protect idiots, But yeah, so you pay for something, and then 2 years later you find out it's a piece of shit, So I mean, it kind of sucks, but at the same time, like, yeah, why are you pre-ordering games 2 years in advance?
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't pre-order anything unless I'm like absolutely sure that I'm going to get it and absolutely sure that it's going to be good. Like I could pre-order. Within the next few days, I plan to pre-order the Flashback 25th Anniversary Edition for the Switch, which comes out July 31st, supposedly. And hopefully, that's kind of a vague release date as well. But so, yeah, stuff like that. And, Death Stranding, like I could pre-order that or, and be okay with waiting years because I'm pretty sure it's going to be good. But, yeah, I'm not one of these people that just goes out and pre-orders every new thing just because, like, why? Right. It's usually no problem to pick it up in the store anyway.
Well, yeah, exactly. Especially if you're getting like regular copies, because I mean, I'll pre-order special editions,
right?
Of course, or I'll pre-order games that I know GameStop won't get a lot of. Like literally, I remember when I believe it was King of Fighters. It was either 12 or 13, right? But it came out on PS3, and both me and Hyper Evo affiliate. You Can Trust Me / Ryu Versace. He and I went up there and like we had both pre-ordered the game and those were the only two they got. So, for stuff like that, yeah, because I mean like they didn't order a surplus of King of Fighters, go figure. So
yeah. Or so, like Agony, they got one copy, right?
Right, yeah, exactly. So, yeah. So, but I mean, you don't really need to pre-order, Uncharted 6 or whatever the fuck.
No, regular edition. You can just walk into any store and buy it. Even like Halo 2, I remember back in the day, like when Halo 2 came out, I was all nervous because I had to go to school that day. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not going to, by the time I get out of school, I'm not going to be able to buy it. It's going to be sold out. And like we walked in and it was like there was 1 billion copies of it. Like it was not a problem.
So yeah, it's exactly. That's crazy. Speaking of that, just real quick, I actually remember somebody bringing the manual of that game to school.
Oh yeah, I remember that too.
You remember that?
I remember that too.
Halo 2. I'm 16 with a car.
Put that away.
Right. Jesus. All right. So finally, the last flake news topic is Dissidia and T added Renoa Hartley.
Oh, excuse me.
Oh Lord.
What now? Dissidia?
So Dissidia NT added Renoa Heartily.
I don't know who that is.
You don't know who Renoa is from Final Fantasy VIII?
No.
Holy shit. Well, she's the heroine of Final Fantasy VIII. And so, okay, so I have you been familiar with how they have been like doing their DLC releases for Dissidia?
No.
Okay, so what they'll do, they'll come out with like the news and they'll say like, okay, so we're going to release 3 DLC characters, and they'll be like, one is a female from the later half of the series, one is a male from the earlier half of the series, et cetera, right? Mm-hmm. So like this female character could have been, I mean, Lightning is already in it. I can't remember if Tifa is, but you know, like it could have been Aeris, it could have been Fang, it could have been Vanille, it could have been Dagger, like it could have been any female character, you know, from the later half of the series.
Mm-hmm.
And who we got was Renoa.
Okay. Well, you know, that's fine, I guess. people like that game. People like Final Fantasy VIII. And I'm sure they'll love that. I've only played 13 and a little bit of 7 and a little bit of 9 and a little bit of 10. So, yeah.
If you ask me, it's fake news because 8 sucks. Now, going on to our main topics of the day. So first, we're going to do over and under. So we're going to talk about overrated and underrated gaming genres. And so Queasy Crayfish, I think, already has, you know, a well thought out, you know, genre that he wants to talk about. So I'll let him go ahead and get started and tell us a bit about an underrated gaming genre.
Okay. Underrated gaming genre is you know, MMO first person shooters. No, I'm joking. It's it's cinematic platformers, in my opinion. This is partially because I've been playing Heart of Darkness, doing a let's play of that. Go check that out on the Queasy Crayfish YouTube, you know, shameless plug. Anyway, Heart of Darkness was developed and designed by Eric Chahi. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but he's a Frenchman, I believe. Worked with Delphine Studios or Delphine. I don't know how to pronounce that either, but basically he's the guy behind Another World. And Another World, if you don't know your history, is, I think, one of the most criminally underrated games of all time. Classic cinematic platform. Basically, a cinematic platformer is, you know, a 2D side-scrolling game that has sort of I guess it just has more cinematic qualities to it. It has, like, you know, richer detail in the graphics. Graphics are usually very realistic looking. The player movement is usually very realistic. It's usually a little bit slower paced, a lot more like puzzle based. Combat is usually pretty intense because you can only get hit maybe once, or in the case of Flashback, which is another Delphine Studios game, like 4 times or something like that, and then you're dead. So they're usually pretty difficult. And very, very intense, usually like very little music as well. And what music they do have is usually pretty atmospheric and cool, which is stuff that I like. So these games, I think, are extremely underrated. And that whole Delphine series of games of Another World, Flashback, Heart of Darkness, I just really never hear these games being talked about very much. Flashback probably the most out of those 3. Which is surprising because Another World, I feel, is the most influential ultimately. But Flashback's getting this 25th anniversary thing coming out soon, so I'm definitely going to pick that up to support this genre. And, you know, the genre continues on into today because we have Oddworld, that whole series. All the 2D ones, at least, could be fit into that genre as well. And even games like Super Metroid and Castlevania and stuff like that certainly have aspects of this as well. Inside and Limbo by Playdead Studios, those games, you know, are definitely the atmospheric cinematic platformer, very intense, very, you know, suggestive, and just wonderful games. And it's a shame that I don't see more discussion about them. Like I would really love to. I think, in fact, now that I think about it, like one thing that pissed me off when I read that Game Informer top 300 games list is like the exclusions on that list. They didn't have Another World on there. And I'm thinking, like, this game was extremely influential at the time when it came out. I mean, they had the rotoscope graphics and everything, amazing sound design, physics, all this stuff. Like it was a great imagination, great story. And the way they do the stories in these games too, they're like very, like I was saying, suggestive. It's sort of like in the Souls game, or the Souls genre vein as well, because it's like, there's not really like a clear story or anything like that. It's just kind of little things here and there that you pick up, and I don't know. That's the kind of stuff I love in games, and they can really very easily wrap you up in them and be completely immersive experiences. And so, I'm all for it. That's that's my underrated genre for this week.
All right. Whoa. All right. And I mean, I have no objections to that. That's not a genre that I've played a lot of, but I definitely have a lot of respect for pretty much all those games that you mentioned. Oddworld Abe's Exodus was one of my first games on the PlayStation, and so I've played some of them a bit, but I think it's a great genre, and I think it's some of the times when the West does some of their best work. Their best artistic work, Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. Cause a lot of these games were European, Prince of Persia. I can't forget to mention Prince of Persia. And even there was like, one that was really interesting too was Heart of the Alien, which is the sequel to Another World, which came out, and it wasn't even by, the same development team. I think it was actually like just independently done. And it came out for Sega CD, and, so that's definitely one to look at, since as we'll get into later, you got a little Sega CD thing going on there.
So, well, all right. So my overrated gaming genre, I'm gonna say it, and you already know what it is. It's battle royale games. These are. Yeah, these are just ridiculously overrated. And personally, I feel so for a couple of reasons. Now, before you ask, have I pumped 1,000 hours into Fortnite? No, I have not. Okay, but I have played Fortnite. Enough. I'll say that I played it enough. And I'm just not a fan of this genre. And not only am I not a fan of the genre, I think the genre, in itself could be okay, but I obviously, this genre could only work in two ways, online gaming, or with a ridiculous land setup situation going on, There's no other way that you could do this pretty much without the internet. So while that's cool, for a gamer like me, it just really sucks thinking about the fact that like one day PUBG and Fortnite 100% will not exist, So all these memories, all this fun that everybody's having, all this greatness, all this money that people are pumping into this service, like at one day will just not exist, And the same could be said for MMOs, that's definitely true. But MMOs have such a different thing going on with them, and just the way that, a lot of people spend time in MMOs just like sitting in the hub towns and like talking to people and, trading items and doing things like that. So that is, it really is kind of like another life. Whereas like battle royale games are obviously just a battle, So first of all, I'm just not a huge fan of the fact that, one day this whole genre won't exist. And then also, it's only on the internet, so these are games that you can't play, by yourself. A lot of them, they're not even, you can't get them physically. It's almost like the genre. It's like almost like everything that goes around the genre, to me, just like makes it something that I just 100% don't want to be involved in. Let's even talk about all the man children streaming and all that type of stuff, but that's neither here nor there. I think another big thing about the battle royale genre that I'm not a big fan of, again, is actually not about the genre itself, but about how it's kind of like taken over. I mean, it's if you ask me, this is like the clear definition of a fad. And it's kind of crazy to me how a lot of, maybe I feel like a lot of developers, even a lot of other people, act like they don't see this. But, I mean, you have just, thousands and millions of people just playing this. And so then what did all the developers do? You have Red Dead Redemption, you have Call of Duty. They are taking, key points of their games and putting them either in the back seat or not having them at all for the sake of having Battle Royale. And to me, like, that is just ridiculous, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, yes, I get it. I get it. Call of Duty is about the multiplayer, and I think Call of Duty multiplayer is pretty dope. But then you have that campaign as well, So once again, like, in the future, will Call of Duty Black Ops 4 even be playable? You know what I'm saying? Like, are we just buying a disc that's just an online service? You know what I'm saying? Like, is there going to be any of that game left once its servers are shut down? There's not going to be a campaign. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I just, to me, I think that it's a cool thing. I'm not saying that it in and of itself, like, sucks. But I think that it's definitely, like, garnered much more attention than it deserves. It's just, you just have so many people jumping on them. You just have so many people talking about them, this and that. There's all these lawsuits going on. It's totally taking over the gaming world. Drake is running around here playing them with different streamers and all this type of stuff. It's just kind of ridiculous. And what makes it so ridiculous to me is just that I just know that, a little while from now, it'll just be a thing of the past. And it just sucks to see everybody get sucked into this vacuum, for probably a good year or two, only to have it just be killed off by the next thing. So, Battle Royales, overrated.
Battle Royales. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that was actually an interesting thing that I was thinking we could talk about at some point on a future episode. Maybe it was like the idea of like the dead game world, that because, we've had games that obviously that, fall out of favor, or games that aren't popular anymore or whatever, but you can still go back and play them, at your leisure. Right. But a game like Fortnite, in 10, 15 years, you're not going to be able to play it at all. Like,
yeah, like, it's going to be gone.
At most, I mean, you could like get into one of the maps or something like that through a hack, or, and walk around or something like that. Or maybe someone will come up with some way to simulate bots or something. But I mean, yeah, just the idea that like that entire world could be dead, I think is interesting, and something we haven't really seen before until very recently. And, also I think this, the thing that's weird about it is, like, to me, this is just like a game mode, but it's like, it's taken on the, appearance of a genre, but it's really just a mode in a game, like that's, and it's kind of the same way that like Dota and League of Legends have kind of capitalized on that thing. And, and that too, because I mean, unless we just keep getting updates to those, I mean, any game where you're required to have people competing with each other through an internet connection, ultimately it's just going to die, whereas a game like I was saying, like Flashback or Another World or something like that, I can go back and play that anytime I want, and that world is as lively and full of things to do as it ever was. So that to me, and I think that's, for me, that's the definition of non-art in a video game, when you have something that's just going to fade after a certain set of years, because Fortnite is not art,
it's definitely not
no. It contains art, it contains character models and texture work and colors and, and maps and level design and weapon design and all that stuff, music, all that stuff. But it does itself, the sum of the parts is not a work of art. It's just a thing. It's a distraction. It's something to come home from work and shoot some people, and that's that's all it is. So,
well, and I will say this, and, I definitely got the point that you were making. Just to put up our flame shield, Actually, Fortnite does have another mode, that Save the World mode. It's like a co-op survival mode. So yeah, so like, because I know if anybody here is going to be like, oh no, there's no, so yes, we know that mode is there, but even still though, kind of like, kind of the point that we're making is like, yeah, well, like take Halo, for example. We got that most people played that for multiplayer, but like those campaigns still mattered, especially in like the original trilogy,
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like Fortnite, that is like definitely some sort of secondary situation there. It's definitely taking a backseat to the main game. And yeah, but even that too, I think still revolves around online. So even that too could still be shut down in the future.
Well, and even furthermore, I mean, you can get a bunch of friends together and play Halo multiplayer,
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
But you're not going to be able to play Fortnite Battle Royale mode, unless you got 50 people that are going to
link up,
like
their
hook
Xboxes.
up and like it's just and of course we're talking about in the far future. If someone 20 years from now is like, hey, remember Fortnite? Let's go get 50 of our friends that used to love Fortnite and get them to play. Like, it's just not going to happen. Or if it does, it's going to be some weird stage thing that's streams on some platform or something like that. Like, it's just not.
Of course it's not going to happen because people who play Fortnite don't even know what a LAN party is. You know what I'm saying? Like, we actually used to do that with Halo,
Yeah.
But they're not, so. Yeah.
Besides, Fortnite, 6 will be out by then anyway, so.
Exactly, season 37.
Yeah.
But it won't because it's going to die.
I sure hope so.
So, all right, so moving on from that, we want to talk about some games that typically do have some good art in them. And that is most, I won't say all, but most Japanese games. So what we're looking at here, I caught a topic on our website and they were talking about a Japanese gaming renaissance. And this is actually something that, I've kind of talked about in different ways, here and there. But there definitely is, without a doubt, a Japanese gaming renaissance going on right now. Every franchise that we wanted to come back, for the most part, is back. Some better than others, but a lot of Japanese franchises are back. Now, I will say that, because a lot of people may be saying, well, where do they go? What happened? Well, during the PS3 era and the 360 era, there was just some strange things going on. First of all, this, for the most part, excludes Nintendo and their games because, yes, they are Japanese by definition, but everybody knows Nintendo's Nintendo, So Final Fantasy came out, and 13, not saying that 13 was a bad game, but obviously 13 was, very different from Final Fantasy games of the past. And, then they kind of Square really focused on doing these sequels. And then Square didn't really come out with another huge RPG, to go along with Final Fantasy like they had done in the past with things like the Chrono series or the Kingdom Hearts series, right? It pretty much was just that, and they focused on that. Resident Evil basically turned into a poor man's, slightly creepy Gears of War. There was just like a whole lot of stuff that just was not even there. Capcom they actually came back during that generation because they were pretty much dead during the PS2 era because they didn't really make like a brand new, really good game during that generation, save maybe CVS2, but a full-on Street Fighter game. So anyways, there was just like that time where, the Japanese games were definitely lacking. And then in their place, Western games just got bigger and bigger. So somebody like me who came from playing, Final Fantasy and all these other Japanese games on the previous generation, I was now playing the Elder Scrolls and Mass Effect and things like that because there just weren't any Japanese games out. Fast forward to today, we pretty much have everything. Yakuza is somehow popular now. You even have strange ones like Nier Automata where people, now they're going to put that on the Xbox. Resident Evil is obviously back. A lot of the fighting game franchises, Street Fighter 5, it's not the best game ever, but it's, it's decent. You have a whole lot of, even weird games like Fighting Layer mixed with Street Fighter EX. Like we have Fighting Layer EX now, there's just all this different stuff that's out now. And like the Japanese game scene is like a thing. You can actually go to the store, and if you only want to play Japanese games on the consoles, you can pretty much do that, except for maybe the Xbox One. And it's pretty crazy, you know?
Yeah, I think, well, for me, I mean, yeah, that's definitely true what you're saying about like the previous generation was all Western stuff. I mean, that was the era of the first person shooter, and everyone was trying to do that kind of stuff. I mean, that's literally all I played during that generation was mostly, Call of Duty Online or Halo Online or like 2K, like it was just stuff like that. It was like, I feel like mostly because it was the first time when multiplayer, I think, was really like exploding. It was really easy to do and accessible for the first time. Because, you could do multiplayer on original Xbox and PlayStation 2 and stuff, but it was, people weren't, it came kind of late in the generation. People weren't really sure how to do it. And people weren't really sure. There weren't a lot of games that supported it. They weren't sure if they really wanted to get into it and all that. So like, I never played my original Xbox Online or anything like that. But 360, it was like, hey, why not? It's all, easy to do. Go get one of those prepaid cards or whatever, type in the code, and boom, you're online, And so I think just the exploration of that experience for the first time, even though I had been playing like PC multiplayer games before that, Command and Conquer and stuff online, but still just the experience of playing, a first person shooter online with a bunch of random people or whatever was just crazy. And it was like, that's all I wanted to do. And I think Japanese games, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I can't really off the top of my head think of a really good multiplayer Japanese game. And,
no, okay. I will correct you. Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is without a doubt a good multiplayer Japanese game. And see, and the reason why I bring Monster Hunter up is because, and this is of course with the exception of obviously like Final Fantasy Online, like 11 and 14 or other MMOs. But see, the thing with Monster Hunter was Monster Hunter had always existed, and it did exist last generation, but it was like on the 3DS.
Yeah, it was portable.
And this was a huge game, obviously in Japan, and it just didn't really get any traction here because Japanese developers weren't getting with the program and making these online console games. So now that we have Monster Hunter World, don't get me wrong, Monster Hunter World is not Fortnite, it's not even Destiny, but Monster Hunter, that pretty much is what Japanese multiplayer is. So that is the one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, fair enough. I think still though the point remains is that like what the difference is that we're seeing is that they're taking the chance of actually putting those games out in the West. Like they're taking the chance of putting out the Yakuza games and actually like trying to make them into something other than just like shyly, like, kind of nudging them onto the scene in the West and being like, oh yeah, here we got that Yakuza game too. Like they're actually like promoting it as like a big tentpole game. And Monster Hunter World. I mean, Monster Hunter World was a big game. It was one of the top games streamed on Twitch for a while, and I mean, it did extremely well. And I think that probably surprised a lot of Japanese executives, who probably didn't feel that, that's not going to sell in the United States or whatever. So that I think is like, there's, for whatever reason now, there's more people in these Japanese publishers and developers who are willing to take the chance to say, hey, maybe they'll like their stuff. Or they'll like our stuff. And I think that kind of grows out of like the Souls games and all that, because I mean, that was like, who would have thought that like Demon Souls would be a popular game in the West, and when that came out. But it got amazing reviews and it got a cult following. They put out Dark Souls on the Xbox as well as the PlayStation, sold extremely well. And this whole series and this whole genre ballooned out of that. And it made them, I think, kind of realize that, yes, like there is definitely a market for these kind of games. And there's a lot of fans that love, Japanese style games. And I don't know why that was ever forgotten in the first place. I mean, I guess maybe just somewhere in the cloud of online multiplayer shooters, just for a while there, maybe it just seemed like that wasn't the case. But, I've always loved Japanese games. Not all, obviously, but but yeah, I mean, they tend to be more closer to works of art than something like your average Western shooter or whatever. So,
most definitely. Well, and I think Dark Souls that is a good one to bring up because like even with Dark Souls, like that was around last generation, but this generation it's now become a genre.
Yes.
So now we're getting Neo, we're getting, these other games and it has influenced things like God of War, and that's what I think is cool too. Street Fighter comes back on the scene hard and, and heavy, and they came back big with Street Fighter 4, and then Mortal Kombat comes back. So then like the Western games that took influence from Japanese games, those become big as well, so it's all, it's a full circle. And I'm, the thing I want to say the most is that I'm glad to be able to have both. It kind of sucks when you can only have one during a generation.
Yeah.
So, all right. So yeah, we mentioned this a bit earlier, but here's our new segment, temporarily named The Collector's Corner. So this past weekend, I went out, obviously, game hunting. And, now some of you may be familiar with the Sega CD. You may have heard of that system. It was an add-on to the Sega Genesis that played, still 16-bit for the most part, but, games with the Sega Genesis, but they, with the CD, they obviously had more space. You could put more things on them. And then they had, you could do things like full motion video, and you could have CD quality sound, right? Like real music on them. So it was, it was pretty cool. So I never had a Sega CD, and I always wanted a Sega CD. And here recently, as I'm getting into collecting, I definitely wanted to get one since it's one of the pieces that I've never had, because now that I have all of the main consoles, I want to start to get the side stuff. So a lot of you also may know that there's at least that, they're the two Sega Genesis. There's one that's kind of long, like a volume slider on the top. That was the first one. Then around 91-ish, they came out with another one that was like basically like a square. It's like it's much smaller, right? So I believe most people saw the Sega CD that goes along with that smaller Sega Genesis that sits on the right side of it, right? So you have the Genesis and it's next to the Sega CD. And that's how most people have probably seen that system set up. So you can put the cartridges in the top of the Genesis and you can flip top open the Sega CD, right? But few people know that there are a couple other models of the Sega CD. And there's two other ones that were, first party released by Sega. And they're both rare as hell. They both go for, on average, about $300 to $400 on eBay. And I was able to come across both of those this past weekend. So we'll start with, so the first one I want to talk about, which is actually one I got second. But now I will say it is broken, but I was able to get it for $30. So we get it for $30. And it's one of these things where it's broken now, but it doesn't mean that it can't be fixed. It's just a common problem. These typically go for $100 on eBay, but I was able to get it for $30. Broken, and that's the Sega CD Model 1. So this went along with the longer Sega Genesis, and so the Sega Genesis was set on top of it. And there's like a front loading disc tray that comes out much like a PS2 or a PC disc drive. So, just ridiculously rare. Few people have ever even seen it. I don't even remember it as a kid. I remember the Model 2 Sega CD, but I don't even remember that one being out. That was something I saw later on. So, it's crazy that I was able to pick that up, even broken, for that cheap. And then what I also got, which to me, I think is just, one of the best pieces you could even have in a Sega collection. And that is the Sega CD-X. So if you've been, obviously, as I've been saying, the Sega CD went along with the Genesis and you had to like attach it to it, whether it be on the side or it be, on the bottom, the Genesis on the top. But the Sega CD-X took the Sega CD and the Genesis and it put them all into one compact machine. Okay. Now, this small compact machine is basically smaller than either of the other Sega CDs and either of the other Sega Genesises. It's basically this. It's like, imagine a big portable CD player. That's what it looks like. And it actually is a portable CD player. You can put batteries in it and listen to music on the go. It lasts for a whole 3 hours on 2 AA batteries. Those were the kind of dope battery life settings we were getting back then.
Well, still better than Game Gear.
Oh yeah. Because what do you get, about 20 minutes on 6 AA's, so. But yeah, and then of course, if you plug it up into the wall, of course, and it can play both Sega CD and Sega Genesis games. And it has 2 controller ports on the front, and it comes with a 6-button controller, and also got this snazzy ass CDX branded carrying case to go with it. And yes, I mean, if you have a moment, if you have time, like, look this up. It is, I mean, if you ask me, it is a technological marvel. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Sega CD is not home to, any of the best games of all time. Arguably the Sega Genesis may be, but the Sega CD has, its dope games, and also the very existence of these things. Because keep in mind, like, I'm telling you that there's, so Sega put out 3 models of this Sega CD, which was an add-on to their main system, totally separate from the other add-on to their main system, the 32X, and also totally separate from both of the portable systems they had out, and also totally separate from the CD drive having Sega Saturn that was to be their next system, right? So Sega was being very ridiculous, with releasing multiple kinds of hardware during this time. And that, that sucks, when you look at the grand scheme of things. But the fact that they were able to take both of those things and put them into such a compact space, basically during that generation, or at least at the tail end of it, it's still pretty amazing. Did it lead to a lot of great sales? Of course not. Did it pretty much help to kill both the Saturn and the Dreamcast and them as a first party company? Of course. But it's still pretty damn cool. So those are the 2 main things I got. I picked up a couple other dope things, some Japanese PS2 games here and there. One other dope Sega thing I got was I found Knuckles Chaotix for the 32X. That's another Sega add-on. So this was a cartridge slot that went on top of the Genesis, but it added 32-bit gameplay to it. And Knuckles Chaotix looks very 16-bit, but still, it's pretty much the main game for the console. There was no Sonic game made for it, but you had obviously a Knuckles game, and it's his only solo game. And this was, pretty much the first time we saw the group, the Chaotix. Many of you may know SBO and Vector and Charmy. And then also they brought Ray into this not Ray. They brought Mighty into this, who had already appeared in the previous game. So that was dope, and that game pretty much goes for about a little over 100. Got it for a little less than that, complete in box. So it's pretty dope. So I'm now classifying. I'm now deeming myself. I'm calling myself here the king of Sega. So if anybody would like to challenge me, and that goes for you, Kuzi Crayfish, I know that you have Burning Rangers, but I'll get that soon. I know you have Alphabet Odyssey, but I have it in Japanese.
Yeah, so, good luck, asshole.
So yes, if anybody wants to challenge me, and this, yes, don't get me wrong. This isn't the end all be all. Another thing I'd like to talk about in future status quos is the idea that in the past, they actually used to license out video game console technology to other companies. So Sega did this with that all-in-one Sega CD, and the company JVC made their total own separate one that cost $500. So I will be looking out for that. And then after that, of course, it's the FM Towns Car Marty. What else? So there it is, ladies and gentlemen, the Collector's Corner. Yeah, Queasy, do you have any comments, any things to add, any rebuttals, any hate?
Well, yeah, that's all shit. You wasted your money.
Objectively, you're not wrong.
No, I mean, I think I need to see pictures on Instagram. I think.
Trust me, they will be coming.
There will be pictures. All right, good. Or are you just gonna do like we were saying, just put a white background with some black text that just says "I have a CDX"?
It'll probably garner some amount of attention.
Yeah.
I will say the Model 1 Genesis I won't post yet because I want the Model 1 CD I won't post because I want a Model 1 Genesis to go with it. I only have a Model 2.
Okay, you can hold that one back for a little while.
I will.
But I'm sure you'll get it sooner or later because you got Master System now. You got all that stuff. All you need is like Jaguar and Car Marty and all that.
Yeah,
3DO.
all the stuff I'm not gonna buy. If I step out of the top four, Sega, Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft, I may get a Neo Geo. But at this point in time, I have no intention of getting a Philips CDI, a Magnavox Odyssey, maybe a Wonder Swan. But
I'll tell you what, I would buy 3DO. I would buy a 3DO. Because
3DO had nice shit on it.
Yeah, it had D, it had Enemy Zero, it had which is also of course on Saturn, but still, those games actually originated on the 3DO, I believe, and they had some interesting, like I think the first like Need for Speed game was actually on there.
No, I think that was
and like there's like a Road Rash or something on there. But yeah, they had some
Gex.
Also, that Crystal Dynamics game, the Horde, I think, was on there too. But they had some interesting stuff, and they were kind of going for this like really cinematic, high production values kind of thing with that, which was interesting. So I could see myself buying that for a reasonable price. But yeah, I don't have anything really to compare as far as collecting. Although I did get D2 on the Dreamcast, just within the last week and a half or so. So. D2, if you don't know, is sequel to D, which I just mentioned, a horror game for the 3DO and the Sega Saturn, and it's 4 discs on the Dreamcast, and pretty good condition. And I plan to do some Let's Plays of that as soon as I can. So that's all I got.
Still something, and I mean you do still have Burning Rangers, so
yeah, I have Burning Rangers and I have Albert Odyssey. I don't have Daytona USA. That's my most sought after item.
I'm pretty sure I have like 7 of them. So,
I just don't know where I'm going to get it. Yeah.
So, all right. So that brings us to our final topic of the podcast, and we'll get started on that. And that is going to be Pokemon. Not red, not blue, not moon, not sun, but Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. So there's a new trailer that came out and it showed us a lot of cool stuff. And, to avoid, anybody being depressed and crying and all that stuff, I'll let Queasy Crayfish start with this one because I actually feel the game's pretty bittersweet. So Queasy, what do you have to say about Let's Go?
I'm excited for this game. I think a lot of people might be turned off by like the extremely cute, like visual style they're going for in these. Cause I mean, it's very, very kawaii, I mean, to put it lightly, and the fact that you can like customize your Eevee, you can give them some bangs or whatever if you want, or, and do stuff to your Pikachu and customize your characters and all that stuff. I think it's definitely a game that is designed to appeal to all ages, all persuasions, genders, everything. So it's a game that I think, maybe someone who's like a hardcore RPG fan or someone who's like really into like classic Pokemon might be a bit disappointed by some of those things and some of that kind of extra cuteness that's kind of hovering around everything. But I think the game looks good. I like the art style. And as someone who plays Pokemon Go pretty regularly, I think it's cool. I think it's cool that they're implementing that whole thing into it. And to be honest, I mean, Pokemon Go has really come a long way just this past year. And I can tell they're really gearing up to make this into something big. So I don't expect this to be the last Let's Go entries either. I think there'll probably be further Let's Go games, or there'll be, or either that or it'll be supported for a long period of time. And, it's weird because like this new trailer, we're looking at it, it's kind of like it looks new, but it has a lot of nostalgia as well. I think, I mean, when you see Brock and Misty in there and, you have flashbacks to the old show, and like just like stuff that I hadn't thought of in years, like your friendly rival and stuff like that. Like I haven't thought about that since I actually played the original game on like the Game Boy. And so I think it's cool. It's definitely something I'm gonna get, and it's probably the one game that I'm, or one and a half games that I'm, if you want to call it that, or I guess they count together as one game, as that I'm the most excited for since I got my Switch. So, yeah.
The reason why I say all this is bittersweet is because, and actually, I like that you brought up the points of, you maybe not thinking about the rival or about all the gym leaders and all those things since you played the original games, because on the flip side, I pretty much don't play Pokemon Go. I played it like a fad, like everybody else. I have played every single iteration of the Pokemon games. The only ones I have not completed are Sun and Moon, then Ultra Sun and Moon. But everything else I've played and completed at least one of, every duo or trio of games. So those elements, they're firmly, burnt into my mind. Like you start off the game, you have a rival. You fight the gym leaders. I know you don't have Sun and Moon, but that's something else. But another big thing that goes with those games though is the very deep and very, overall very complex, Pokemon, system. You can breed them. There's shinies. There's different moves you can get. There's even the abilities, the rare abilities. And there were so many things that I did in that game. Like, I remember like, running around with all these different eggs, trying to breed it so I could get a shiny Greninja with the protein ability, just super rare, and while it's dope that they're going to finally, they're doing basically a remake of Red and Blue with this, Red, Blue, and Yellow and Green, but it's not going to have that deep battle system. And I had always thought like, okay, if they redo those games, they'll definitely have a deep system in them, because it's so much easier to make that system when you're only dealing with 150 monsters. The whole community has taken and made, those great tier lists, because, there's just so many different types of Pokemon and so many different abilities and so many moves, so many TMs, the HMs, all that stuff. The breeding, you can breed this Pokemon with this move, but you only get it if it's bred, and all, just all that stuff. And that is obviously what's going to be missing from this game. And I just really hate that. Because I typically try to use original 150s, because I'm an OG guy, like my OG stuff, Jolteon, Cloyster, to name a few off my team, Arcanine. But while those monsters will be there and while those gyms will be there and all that stuff, it's just not going to have that deep battle system. And to me, that's just very disappointing. Don't get me wrong. I'm still very like pleased that this exists. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to play it for sure. I'll probably play it a lot. The local multiplayer, that's just dope, period. Yeah. And even still, I stress even still just the fact that we have this in 3D, a full remake. It is dope. The Pokemon Go connectability, that is also dope. But it just saddens me that we won't have that dope battle system. So, and I'm also pretty sure that there won't be HMs, or TMs if I'm not mistaken. So I'm interested to see how they do, all the parts where you need like surf or flash or cut, because those were, a lot of times those were like barriers that would stop you from like just going to wherever you wanted. So I'm interested to see how they do them. I'm also interested to see if they include all of the other, little things that go into the game, like, like getting the scope, so that you can see so you can see the Ghastlies inside of the tower that's in Lavender Town, the Poke Flute with Snorlax, like the SSN, where you have to get on the ship. There's like a whole lot of stuff. So I'm just interested to see how much they include in this. will I have that whole storyline of going to Silphco and, taking them down, because if it has the gym leaders, I guess it has to have Giovanni. So, but, will that whole, Team Rocket conglomerate, like, will that whole thing be there? Will the Elite Four be there? So.
Well, here's my bold prediction. Mm-hmm. It'll all be there because first of all, TMs are in Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go does have IV and all that stuff. It is, of course, scaled down because it's a mobile game. But I think that it may not be to the level of like modern Pokemon games, but I think it'll be on the level of like Red and Blue for sure. I mean, Red and Blue was not that expansive as far as like stuff you could do. I mean, you could only have like one save slot in that game, like it was, right. It's pretty primitive. So I think it'll be at the very least on that level. And
you only have one save slot in any of them though.
Oh, really? Even in the current ones?
Yeah. There's no multiple save slots, but just the things you could do, with your Pokemon and stuff.
No, I think it'll be because I think Go, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about Go, and I'm not going to act like it's, super deep game or anything like that, but it is a lot deeper since I've started playing it more regularly and kind of getting into it and participating with it and talking to other people that play it. It is a lot deeper than I had originally thought. And there's stuff in the game that I had no idea about. I mean, by using the Pokegenie app, you can, check your IVs and stuff like that and all your Pokemon. And, there's a lot of stuff you can do with the gyms and everything. And, just the fact that they're like putting things like shinies in there now. And I mean, there are TMs, there's charged TMs, there's fast TMs, there's all kind of stuff like that. So I think it's fast TMs or charged TMs. Well, because you in Go, you have every Pokemon's got a fast move, which is like when you tap on the screen, and then it's got a charge move, which charges throughout the gym battle or the raid battle or whatever. And then you can, when it charges up, then you can release it, and it'd be this big heavy move or whatever. So you can swap either of those out depending on which TM you have. And it is randomized, but I think there's there's only like usually 3 or at most 4, I think, that they can even switch to. So I mean, like that stuff is in the game. It's just on a much smaller scale. And I don't think that Let's Go, given the capabilities of the Switch console, is going to be like a super small scale Pokemon Go level game. I think it'll have a lot more of the stuff that you are looking for. And I think, it will have Team Rocket, and it'll have all that stuff in it. I think it might be different. It might be presented differently. It might not be to the scale that, you would hope for. I mean, obviously we all want that like big, fully featured, absolutely crazy, fully console enabled Pokemon game that we've never had. But I think this is definitely a step in that direction. Until that game comes out, and it'll be something new that we haven't seen before. And it's something that I think a lot of casual players will be able to get into. And, it'll be kind of like the more you can get out of it as much as you want to put into it, I think. And that's kind of the way Pokemon Go is. If you really want to play Pokemon Go religiously and you want to get out there every day and, hit up the gyms and do battles and do raids with people and stuff like that, you can do that, and you can get involved with a whole community of people. I mean, there's, Discords and stuff, and right in the town that I live in, where people are telling you, oh yeah, you go here and there's, such and such a raid going on. I'll be there at 6:30. And we, it's like, there's a whole sub community of people that get into that stuff, and people that check on which areas in town are nests for different Pokemon and all that stuff. So I mean, it's a lot deeper than people think it is, and I think that if you want to devote that kind of time and energy into it, you can get a lot out of it. And I think that Let's Go is going to be the same way. So if you want to sit up there and you want to really play hard and go out, on your way to work and catch some Pokemon, bring them back, put them in the game, I think that'll be something that's really fun to do. And I think it's going to be innovative, and it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it will be cool, But, okay, so this is the main thing. They've already announced that there will be a full RPG in 2019, right? So that definitely means that Pokemon Let's Go definitely will not have a lot of the features, right? Because I don't think they're going to, cannibalize themselves like that. Like, then why would they even put that RPG out? And so I guess my thing with it is like, I guess that next RPG, I'm guessing if they're spending the time to make Let's Go, then I'm guessing that next RPG will probably be more so based on the engines that are used for, like basically the current 3DS games, and may just have slightly better graphics or things like that, right? But it's not like this full redone 3D situation like Let's Go is. So unless their next game is a full-on remake of Red and Blue, then they'll both still be kind of bittersweet because, what I've always wanted is like a fully 3D real, Pokemon RPG. And so it's like I'm going to get a fully 3D pseudo Pokemon RPG and a not 2.5D, but like also not true real 3D real RPG, right? So it's like we're still not getting both of them put together. And that's kind of where, some of my disappointment lies. But,
well,
I hear you though. I think it's going to be dope and it's going to be cool, but it is like different than, the Pokemon games that they've built us up on for the last 20 years.
I think the new one for 2019, which I think it'll get pushed back because I think that's too soon unless it's late 2019. But I think it'll be, or at least what I'm hoping for is it'll be a whole new game with whole new Pokemon in it, and I think that's because Let's Go is like Kanto region stuff, just like retread once again. And that is one thing I'm kind of disappointed with Go, especially lately, like the last 3 of the last 4 community days. So it was like Charmander, Squirtle, and the next one is going to be Eevee. So it's like, there's just Kanto all day. And I think that's kind of where I think Let's Go is like Pokemon pop culture stuff. It's like recognizable characters, recognizable Pokemon. And what I'm hoping for is that this new one is going to be like a whole new set of Pokemon. It's going to be a whole new game, and it's not even going to rely on that nostalgia thing. I mean, at least to the degree that Let's Go is. So I think that it just doesn't have to be like it's going to be a 3DS game on the Switch. I don't think it necessarily has to be that. I think it'll just have to be something different.
Well, see, but I think the issue with that point though is I think you're missing like the big point that there are 700 and something Pokemon now, right? So yeah. Like so they make the games in these blocks because like for example, like when X and Y first came out, right? Like they never only release a game with all new Pokemon. There's going to be like some in the new Pokedex, and then there's going to be various Pokemon from the old Pokedex, right? But every Pokemon is still like, for the most part, it's still like coded into it because every Pokemon is going to be available, So once X and Y came out, there were a lot of Pokemon that we couldn't get. So then we had to wait for, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and then you could like get more of them. Then they built up the whole Pokebank situation, which lets you store Pokemon from like other older games and bring them up from the DS games into the 3DS games. And, so they had to like create this whole thing, right? So unless they make like a cartridge port unless they make a cartridge port like for the 3DS or for the Switch, they basically there's basically 2 choices. Like, don't give us all of the Pokemon, like, which will be absurd, or you take the time to code all of the Pokemon in there, right? So that's what I'm thinking. It is just going to be like an upport Sun or Moon game. Because where's that time going to come from for them to do that?
That it's not going to be. What it's going to be is Go is going to be the hub through which you get all of your Pokemon. Now, it doesn't have all of them in it now, but it's got 3 generations and a 4th coming. So what I think they're going to do is they're going to say, forget all of that stuff, which is going to piss people off. I mean, I'm not denying that. And I think people probably are absolutely justified in being pissed off about it. But I think the only way they're going to be able to do it and to bring Pokemon to the consoles and to release a game that has new Pokemon in it, as well as all the old ones, is to have people bring their Pokemon to the new game through Switch. So
if they do that, I'll stop playing Pokemon, because that will be whack. Like, that will just be 100% whack. And it's not that Pokemon Go is whack in itself. But like, if they again, yeah, it's like it's the classic gamer thing. Like, I don't want to walk, But yeah, like if they make you like walk around in the real world in order to get something for an actual competitive game, like, that's stupid. Like, it just is like because you bring about like a whole thing. So then that means that, like, if you're like disabled or something, or you just don't have the means to go around, or you just don't have all these things, then you can't even be a good competitor in the game. So instead of like pay to play, it's like, I don't even know what to call that. It's like physical to play, it's like that's just ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, if they want to go forward with making, and it requires so many other things. So it requires you, again, like, to be competitive in the game, you have to have a cell phone. Like, don't get me wrong, I get that everybody has a cell phone, but you can't do that though. So yeah, I don't think that's the answer at all. I will call it now and say that's definitely not the answer, and will be willing to put money on it, because there's no way you can guarantee people, in order to be competitive and play a game, to both have a cell phone and to like actually go around and do things. All right. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, so that is status quo. And yeah, so we'll see you at the next episode. We're out of here.
Yeah, see ya.